Namaste and welcome to my YouTube channel. Before we start, most important thing, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please do subscribe for latest informations. In our today's class, we are going to talk about letters. Letters are very important part in communication, and we must need to know how we should be writing a letter. So there are two types of letters. The first one is formal and the other one is informal. This formal letter is written for internal as well as external purposes, most of the time external purposes only. Whereas informal letter are written for internal purposes and they are confined within mates, colleagues, co-workers or family members. Similarly to informal letters, memoranda or memorandum or even sometimes called memo, they look alike. But memorandum or memoranda or even memo, they appear to be less formal than letter. They are written for internal purposes only, mostly by the executives to subordinates. And sometimes, depending upon the situation, even subordinates write memorandum to the executives as well. Now let us talk about job application. There are two types of job application. The first one is solicited and the another one is unsolicited. So whenever you are applying for a job, you must include a job application letter or sometimes cover letter and your CV, or even in American English it is called resume, with at least two references. But you always need to remember that the names of references should be the one who knows you the most, not the one whom you know. Because just in case your job uh, application gets approved, you need to ask recommendation letters from the references as well. So bearing all these things in your mind, now let us start what is job application. So job application are of particularly two types. The first one is solicited and the another one is unsolicited job application. Job seekers, they create application letters, also called cover letters, to send to prospective employers in an attempt to get an interview. If a job is advertised and available, the person sends a solicited application letter. And if the job was not announced prior, the person sends an unsolicited letter hoping there might be an open position within a company. So the main differences between a solicited application letter and an unsolicited one is whether a company receiving the letter announced a job opening or not. If a company announced an opening, the letter is considered solicited because it was requested. However, if a company had not asked for applications, the letter is considered unsolicited. So the goal of solicited application letter is to obtain an interview for a specific job position which the writer mentions in the letter. For example, the writer states that he or she is applying for the accounts payable clerk position that is open. When a person writes an unsolicited letter, he or she hopes that the company has any position within a certain area available. So this letter is more general and the writer states that he or she is applying, for example, to any type of managerial position within the company. So when you are writing a solicited letter, address the main point of the letter immediately without spending too much time on unnecessary details. An unsolicited letter must immediately catch the reader's interest. I hope now you are clear about what is solicited and what is unsolicited job applications. In a simple example, if you are writing a job application on the basis of vacancy announcement announced through the official websites or through the official media or national or regional newspapers, that is solicited job application. Whereas if you're writing a job application without any vacancy announcement, it is known as unsolicited job application letters. So in unsolicited job application, you particularly don't know what position you are applying for. So you just write an application stating your qualifications and asking if there is any vacancy that meets your requirement. Now let us come to talk about block and semi-block business letters. Before understanding block and semi-block business letters, we need to know format of writing formal letters, either solicited or unsolicited. The three components that help you designing formal letters look attractive are space, margin, and indent. Always remember that. Always remember to leave a space between your address and the date, the heading and the salutation, and between its paragraphs. In addition, please do not forget to leave a space between the final paragraph and your closing too, and a space between the closing and your signature. Do remember that your cover letter or application letter should be one page or less. And always use 12 point and the font that is easy to read in printed papers. For example, you can use Times New Roman, Calibri, or even Arial font that are more readable when it gets printed. So, what are the standard elements of letter that we will be studying now? When you are writing a job application, there are 6 different elements that you need to consider. The first thing is heading and the date. You need to tell where a letter came from and when it was written in the heading and date. The next thing is inside address. Inside address, it begins at least one line below the date and it shows the complete name and title of the recipient, followed by the company name and address. Then you go for a salutation. Salutation is a greeting of your recipient. For example, dear Mr. Pandey, dear Sir Madam, or dear Sita, depending upon how formal you need to appear in your writing. And it is always followed by a comma according to United Kingdom standards or open or even open punctuation, which is becoming more increasingly popular now. The formality of the salutation depends on your relationship with the addressee. Leave a line before and after the salutation. Then the third thing means that you need to include is a body. So body of a letter discusses the subject in a few paragraphs. Within each paragraph, each line is single spaced while there is double spacing between paragraphs. Then there is a complementary closing that appears 2 lines before the body. Examples include yours sincerely, yours truly, and sincerely, which are then followed by a comma. So depending upon how formal you need to appear in your writing, you can use a complementary closing. Then leave 2 or 4 lines for a written signature, and this is followed by your name and designation. Remember to leave a bottom margin of at least 3 to 6 lines. So the standard elements of letters are heading and date, inside address, salutation, body, complementary closing, and signature. Now let us talk about block and semi-block format. Most letters are written in block, modified block, or semi-block format. Anyway, today we are going to talk about block and semi-block format only. So what is a block format then? Block format features all elements of the letter aligned to the left margin of the page. It has a neat and simple appearance. Paragraphs are separated by a double line space, whereas semi-block is similar to block but has a more informal appearance. All elements are left aligned except for the beginning of each paragraph, which is indented 5 spaces. Paragraphs are separated by a double line space. So that's all for today. I hope you did understand what job application letter is and how should we be composing job application or cover letter. Before going, just a reminder, please do not forget to subscribe my YouTube channel by pressing subscribe button, and also leave me your comments too in case my videos need more improvement in coming days. Thank you once again. Have a good time. Jai Hos.